Hi, welcome today to this Saturday morning live where we discuss about the Canadian immigration news updates, things that have happened within the past few days. This is the first episode for this year, so welcome and a happy new year. My name is Kubeir. I am an ICCRC or now CICC licensed immigration consultant, and I'm going to be the host for today. Uh, we'll very quickly get on with the presentation. We will take you through some PNP programs, some draws that have happened. We'll get into the discussion of the backlogs. Of course, a lot of you are thinking, worrying, wondering about the backlogs, but we'll get to that towards the end of the presentation. And then obviously we will go back and answer some of your questions that might have been popping up in your heads. Right, so starting with the quote of the week, there is always something good coming. Remember that. Well, some anonymous person said that, but I think it's a very, very wise quote. Sometimes we just lose sight of the fact in our worries that there could be something better. There is always something better coming. So just keep remembering that. Canadian Immigration Annual Review. Well, this is not an annual review. I think we just picked up the last slide from the previous previous session that we did. Anyways, the topics of discussion for today would be the Pnp Draws Overview, Pnp Draws, Express Entry Draw, and the other news. Pnp Draws Overview for December 2021. On December 7th, Ontario issued 1,186 immigration invitations to the people who had profiles in expression of interest for Ontario. Candidates have become eligible for one of the three streams under the employer job offer category: foreign worker, international students, and in-demand skills. And invitations also went to people who were under the regional pilot. British Columbia then issued 5 draws in December and invited 632 candidates, which is always a good thing. Manitoba held 3 draws through the following streams: skilled worker in Manitoba, international education stream, and skilled worker overseas, and they issued 1,180 letters of advice to apply, of which only 208 went to the express entry candidates. Prince Edward Islands had a pre-scheduled draw on 16th of December, issued a combined of 125 invitations, of which 114 were issued to express entry and labor impact candidates, 11 to the business impact. Well, Alberta conducted their draw as well, 14th of December, and invited 150 people from the express entry pool. The lowest score was 351. I'm sure most of you are aware that Alberta does not publish their NOC codes, so that always remains a mystery. We never come to know as to who exactly they have invited. Manitoba also invited 393 candidates, and that was the last draw form from Manitoba for the year, and that was on the 30th of December. 332 LAAs, letter of advice to apply, were issued to skilled workers in Manitoba, 35 to skilled worker overseas, and 26 to international education stream, for which you did not need any scores. Of this, only 73 were issued to candidates in the express entry stream. British Columbia, our usual suspect, held its first draw of 2022, inviting 102 tech workers to apply under their BC PNP Tech Pilot Program. That was on the 4th of January. And people who received invitations here, the minimum provincial score was only 80. Coming to express entry, I mean, we expected so much, and obviously we need to change this over here. We expected so much from this. The hopes were high. Everybody was quite pepped up. But what did IRCC do? IRCC went back to its normal, usual routine, and they have invited only 392 candidates under the provincial nominee program-specific express entry draw, and the cutoff score was 808. For a lot of you who keep wondering, how can anybody get 808? I mean, because 600 points are received through provincial nominations, and would they only have a score of 208? Well, it's absolutely possible, because those people also forget or have not been made aware that there was an express entry draw on the 13th of February where the lowest CRS score was only 75. So if such people manage to obtain a nomination, they will get 600 points. So actually you could also have a draw at 675, so that's also practically possible. But yes, this is absolutely possible. If you can get a nomination from a province which is linked to express entry, then you could have very, very low scores and still be invited under the express entry pool. Yes, it was a real downer. To be very honest, we're not really looking at 5th of January to be the date that that express entry all program draws would have resumed. It would have been really nice. I would have really loved to see that. But the hope builds up, right? With all these talks about the fact that come the new year, everything will be reset, all the programs will be reset, quotas will be reset. So yeah, we would have really liked to see that happening. But then also looking at the internal memos that we have talked about earlier, whereby IRCC said they would be looking to cut the processing backlogs for the economic programs to at least half before they would go back and resume the draws. Well, it only looks like they haven't got to that number yet, if you go with that assumption. So that's what happened. There was this express entry draw, which was not what we expected, but it did happen. And and then following that, there was a lot of expectation for a CEC draw, which also did not happen. In other news, we didn't really have any other news because there was nothing much happening in terms of the fact that it was holidays, and Canada was just about getting themselves back to the normal working days. What else was that? That was a very, very brief and short presentation. I wanted to just quickly run through it because there was nothing much of real gripping interest, and I knew a lot of you would not really be looking to that. There are a lot of you who are already asking some questions, and we will get to that in a bit. But yes, what did come out and what is definitely been the topic of discussion for a lot of you out there has been the backlogs. Okay, and one of the media releases that talks a lot about these situations, and they did one in October. They've got one out in what was that? Let me just share that screen with you so we have that. Give me a moment till I get that screen up. Right, so this was the okay. Let me just bring this down here. Okay, let me shut these off. Right, so yeah, this one's not the correct one. Hold on. Sorry about that. I just opened the wrong screen, so I didn't want to confuse you with that. Right, now we have it. The tab from CIC News, and this is the one that we're talking about, right? Their applications backlog. In this particular website, as they have been talking in the past, I'm just going to make it bigger so we have a much bigger view of this for everybody else who's looking at it. Okay. Persons, that is the first thing I want you to take a look at. It's always persons. It is not the number of applications. A lot of people get confused whether they're talking about number of applications, and the whole media goes bonkers with this repeat of the fact that these are the applications, because everybody knows in an application there can be more than one person. So when they refer to this as persons, then you should understand that these are not applications. But everywhere you will see, oh, 1.8 million applications, 1.8 million applications. It's not applications, it's persons. So always please first take a look at that. So going forward, at this point of time, within the backlogs, you have 234,770 as the backlog for the economic class. Under the family class, 105,298. And then that brings the total to 525,000, amongst other categories as well. Under the TRVs or temporary residence backlogs, you have nearly 819,874, of which you obviously have work permit applications, which a lot of you are waiting for, your spouse open work permits, your LMIA work permits, your closed work permits, ICT work permits. So all that is stuck at this point here. And then obviously there are people who have applied for TRVs, your visit visas. Those are all stuck here. And also to mention that there are hundreds and thousands, or rather 122,000 applications that are stuck at the study permit, which have not been processed. As of October 31st, and this is the data that CIC News, these guys have obtained, and they said there were around 468 citizenship applications, but that number also seems to have gone up. In total, if we are going to look at the details of these economic class backlog, and I'm sure most of you are only interested here, Canadian experience class, and then federal skilled worker express entry. In contrast, federal skilled worker express entry in October, as per the data received by CIC News, they haven't really shared the actual document they have received. That would have given us a much more clearer perspective, but this is there. I mean, I'm sure they've just taken off the whole thing and put it here, and that's how it has come out. Federal skilled workers express entry was 54,529 on the 5th, as of persons as of 15th of December. Same number in the month of October, as far as their records is concerned, it was 50,880. So this number has actually gone up, and everybody has been wondering, how is it possible that this number could go up? Because there has been no draws. We all know that there has been no draws for 1 year, more than 1 year now. How did this number go up? Nearly 4,000 people went up on this. Well, the explanation to that is that this is possibly the numbers of people that have been added to an existing application because there was change in the family circumstances. There was a change where people got married, there was a change where people, the children were born, and those were added to the application. Well, keep in mind that there have been people who have been waiting for a very, very long time. There are people who are waiting from 2018 for the applications to be processed. 2018, 2019, 2020, now 2021. So yeah, lots can happen. People have got married. Obviously, people have to continue with their lives. So this number probably has gone up from there. But this confuses me even more. And to be very honest, I don't have an answer because I haven't been able to figure that out. If this number has gone up by 4,000, and we are obviously assuming that that number has to do with the fact that this is by way of increase in the number of family members, then what happened to all these applications that were being processed? I mean, we all have witnessed, we all have seen there were quite a few people who received their passport requests. There are all the people who have been getting processed, but the numbers of people who have been getting processed, who are federal skilled worker outland, or basically who did not have a nomination, that number has been very, very small. The number which has been bigger, and I will take you back to the screen, is this one. So provincial territory nominees, 39,325. This is the number which has been reduced from, so in October, this number was 37,566. Okay. And this number also has gone up by 2,000. But again, we also know that IRCC continued to conduct draws for provincial nominee programs. So the draws for provincial nominee programs did not hold back. And if you were to calculate the number of draws or ITAs that were issued between October and December, you would find that this number pretty much corroborates or corresponds to that number. But with all those PPRs that were issued, where did they come from? I mean, if they were not cleared out of these, which only tells you that the number of profiles that were being invited throughout the year within 2021, those are the only numbers that have corroborated, or those are the only numbers that were also cleared for provincial nominee categories in express entry. So this was by and large what has so far been cleared. I haven't really seen much relief that has come technically for people who were under the express entry, who were under the, let me make this bigger, this is quite small. Yeah, so this basically gives you an idea that not much was processed for people who were outside Canada, for people who were in express entry, but non-provincial nominees as well. They pretty much played it by their rule book. They pretty much played it by something that was propagated and was also included in the mandate letter early 2021. If you remember, 15th of January, I think, was the mandate letter issued to Marco Mendicino, which said that the focus must be on in-Canada applications. Okay, so this basically is the talk about these backlogs that has been coming up repeatedly. So it was nearly 1.8 million people who were in backlog in October. That number has gone up by 21,000 at this point of time. Now it is more than 1.8 million people, not applications, 1.8 million people. And that is where we stand. Now, where do we go from here? So let me just shut this off because it's a bit distracting. So where do we go from here, right? So what's going to happen from here? And because all of this directly corresponds to the fact that express entry draws are not happening. I mean, express entry draws are happening, but the ones you and I would like to see happening, Canadian experience class, federal skilled worker class, or all program draws, those are not really happening. So where do we go from here? The biggest factor or the biggest hope that I have is, again, referring to the mandate letter that was issued to Sean Fraser, the new immigration minister. And the first point of priority there was to reduce the application processing time, or to basically regularize the application processing time to at least get it back to the pre-COVID time. It's a tall task, no doubt about it, because for the whole of 2021, IRCC was only concentrating on processing the in-Canada applications. And now they need to sort of, push the gear up and move forward and try and process as many applications are there within the pipeline or backlogs. Will all the applications be processed quickly, immediately, within the next 2 months, 3 months? I don't think so. That's not going to happen. If you see within the last few months, the processing inventory that they have, or rather the capacity that they have to process the applications, that has varied between 15,000 to 16,000 applications for express entry. Okay, for the PNP programs, for the CEC applications. This is the number that they themselves have disclosed a bit earlier on, that is where they were at. If you go by that number, and if you see CEC numbers that I just shared with you were roughly 28,000 approximately. Was that the number? Let me just go back to the stream. Yeah, in the same stream, it is about 28,000 for the express entry. Now, if I am, let me check this. There you go. Currently, it's at 24,675 people. So if that is the number, which obviously means this is not the number of applications, this is the number of people. 24,000 Canadian experience class would probably be in the range of, if we calculate 2.23, that is roughly what we would calculate, but I would give it a bit more, considering that there are more international students who have then become Canadian experience class. So let's say it's on an average about 18,000 applications that are still sitting in Canadian experience class. Now, mind you, IRCC did not say that they will complete their entire processing inventory and then conduct draws. They said they want to come to at least a 50% processing inventory before they can start or resume the express entry draws. So you're looking at from 24,675 people, even let's say in a month's time, they have cleared majority of these applications or the number of people. They should then be able to start concentrating on looking at the other aspects of express entry applications. So far, they were not really, there were only 500 to 700 applications being processed in terms of non-CEC each month. That number should basically go up. And if that number goes up, and again to take you back to this particular stream, hold on. Right. In this number of 54,529, if I'm to take this number and if I sort of say that these are the number of people, means the number of applications is going to be much smaller. It's in the range of 30,000, 38, 39,000 applications. So how long would they take to process 38, 39,000 applications? If they are to clear majority of the CEC applications and with the same processing capacity of roughly 15,000 applications, you would say that they should be able to clear most of it by what, another 3 months. I mean, going by their own processing capability. So you're looking at what, April for the entire processing inventory to be completed. Again, all these numbers were disclosed by IRCC. I'm not coming up with these numbers. Again, you can go back to the same website, CIC News. They have uploaded this earlier information as well, talking about the same thing, and you will get the same information from there. So if this has been their processing capability, this has been what they were looking at, they shouldn't have to wait till April, because again, from as far as whatever they have said, that they are looking to complete at least 50%. So they wouldn't be looking to go until April to conduct the draws. So my personal expectation would be that I expect to see draws happening within this month. That would really help push everything forward, because mind you, whether they conduct a federal skilled worker draw at this point of time or not, they are under a lot of pressure to conduct the Canadian experience class draw for sure. The reason for that is I just made a video day before yesterday, and that was about people who are losing status. These are international students, these are international foreign workers who were probably on a postgraduate work permit, whose work permits are expiring. And they were obviously expecting to get their, or looking to submit their PR applications and then applying for bridge open work permit. But they can't do it because there has been no draw since 14th of September, which basically means since the last 4 months, the draw did not happen. A lot of these people are losing status. A lot of them are now contacting IRCC through their MPs, through whoever they can get in touch with. So there is that little bit of political pressure as well, sort of bearing down on IRCC. So I definitely expect to see a Canadian experience class draw, if not all program draw, within this month. And moving forward with the same analogy and same understanding, and going with whatever IRCC has said in some of their internal memos, that they're looking to progress, they're looking to sort of resume the draws once they come to at least 50% processing inventory. Then you should start looking at all program, or start at least expecting and being more hopeful for the all program draws starting in February. Again, all these are the numbers, and I'm just giving my understanding and my opinion on these. I do not have any inside information. This is nobody, no lawyer, no consultant can tell you with absolute certainty as to which date the draw. I mean, I'm sure most of IRCC staff will not be able to tell you. This is the think tank. This is the absolutely top level brass in IRCC who's deciding. This comes from the operations department, and they are the ones who are deciding how they want to play out this whole mandate that has been given to them. Mind you, IRCC will still look at going ahead with inviting 411,000 permanent residents to Canada for this year, obviously under different programs, not only Express Entry. Express Entry is a very small section or segment of the entire number that they complete this quota from. So this is how it's going to be looking like. Yes, there are plenty of applications in the pipeline. Pipeline will always have applications, because as and how they will keep issuing invitations, more and more applications will come through. If nothing else, we also need to understand that by, I think, 10th of February is the date which is expected that Sean Fraser is going to be announcing the new immigration quotas and plans. Now, because in the year 2020 they were unable to complete their target, actually they were falling short of by nearly 48%. So there is a big possibility that the numbers of immediate immigration quota as well as the following year's immigration quotas, the numbers could be bumped up. So while the number is for this year is 411,000, that is a bleak possibility that this number could go up. But definitely for the year 23, 24, 25, you could see that numbers going up progressively as well. Not only that, another thing we also need to understand is that what they did was in the year 2021, they converted a lot of temporary residents into permanent residents. So that was done through TR to PR pathway. That was done by giving this big chunk of draws to only people who were inside Canada. They did that 27,332 draw on the 13th of February for CEC specific categories with the lowest CRS ever of 75. So all that happened, right? What did they do? They just played on the technicality. They converted the temporary residents in Canada into permanent residents. Now, these temporary residents who were in Canada were already employed. They were already paying taxes. They already had houses. They were already part of the economy. Now, how does the economy grow is when you infuse more people, more investment into the economy, right? That's basically how it would normally grow, and that is how the population would also grow. Right now, the technicality is just being played on the numbers. Okay, so all that they can now talk about is that we have got 401,000 permanent residents, right? But they were already in Canada. Rather, majority of them were in Canada. So while they played on the technicality, and that is going to be their claim of having achieved something, in principle, as far as Canada is concerned, it did not really make much of a difference. So as of today, there are huge number of vacancies in jobs in different sectors and different segments, and obviously the economy is really shaky at this point of time with all this COVID pandemic and all the issues that we are facing because of the COVID pandemic, and all the talk about doing better for the economy growing is really something that they will need to relook at. Okay, so therefore, my personal opinion, and I keep saying that because it's not coming out of any specific data. It is again the way I'm looking at the whole picture and saying that if all they did was take the temporary residents and make them into permanent residents, how exactly did you improve what you said you were going to be improving? So going by that, I expect to see something better happening for at least people who are outside Canada. So those additional people, that is what they were trying to do in the first place, could be brought into Canada. Now, as per statistics, there are nearly, or rather there were, I think few months back, there were nearly 1 million people in Canada who are temporary residents and as well as undocumented workers or refugee claimants within Canada. So with a country which has a population of roughly 38 million people, there were 1 million people who were, as I said, temporary residents, international students, foreign workers, undocumented workers, refugee claimants, that number who are not permanent residents or citizens. No, all they have done is they have just gone ahead and taken few of them and made them into permanent residents. But the vacancies are there, large number of vacancies, because you did not bring any new people to start working, right? So that 400,000 people who would have come in a mix of people from inside Canada and from outside Canada, that basically was the one factor which has been missing. Not to mention that they have also lost out or are losing out on a lot of good talent or people who are qualified, people who really could have contributed in different ways, whether through STEM, whether through engineering, whether through medicine, whether through different experiences that they would have brought in. When you already had the people who you already had in Canada, you didn't really bring anybody new outside. So, that leaves a bit of a question mark. And therefore, in my opinion, in my looking at what the picture looks like, I would expect that there has to be at least some way where you will start bringing people from outside back into Canada, and that pathway has to be cleared out again, so that the draw or express entry, the way it was managed or the way it was intended to be, it can be brought back into the normal force of action. So that's what I see as happening. I definitely see the numbers for immigration quotas going up. I definitely see the all program draw, federal skilled worker, all program draw being coming back, at least if not this month, then definitely February. At least that's what the numbers are suggesting. If something else they have up their sleeve, well, then who knows. If you ever want to understand which way this is going to go, always, and this is now what we have learned historically as well, and as per the trends, always look at the mandate letter. You will know pretty much this is the direction that they will be taking. As much as I feel that the numbers will go up, there is also the factor where Justin Trudeau has mandated to Sean Fraser that they should be looking at creating new pathways within the express entry. Now, that again is something which is directed towards the international workers and international student. So again, while I am looking at the fact that they need to be bringing more people from outside, the mandate has again initiated, or rather has suggested, that there could be possible changes. There will be, not could be, there will be. Now, whether that happens this year or later, but there definitely will be changes to express entry, which would open up more pathways for people who are inside Canada within the express entry. Now, that has what has been mandated. I do not know if it happens within the express entry. I do not know whether it happens outside the express entry. I personally do not see TR to PR pathway returning. I don't see it happening. If it happens, excellent, great. But I don't see that happening. I basically see them probably making some small changes, adding some points, or making some new programs, or probably making some changes to the laws, so that gives a bit more flexibility to people who are already inside Canada. There is also a possibility that they move forward by alternating the draws, where they keep doing CEC specific draws and then all program draw, whereby creating a bit of a balance, but also continuing to give more benefit to people who are inside Canada. Again, international students, international workers. But if you are Canadian experience class, then that has what was again mandated. That was what was indicated in the mandate letter, and going from there. And there's one more category of people, and that was the families, right? So family sponsorship. So we don't talk on our most of these roundup, we don't talk much about family sponsorship, but that is also very, very important criteria that is going to come up, is that all this while, and you see, those are directly related to the Canadian politics, for the reason because a lot of these people are relatives, spouses, children, or parents of Canadian citizens. That is where the vote bank is, right? So that is where they need to make the first dent, or they have to make the first impressions, or at least have to make something there so that the vote bank is appeased. And family sponsorship applications have been delayed for a very long time for a lot of you out there. And the digitization is happening. Yes, they have already started accepting applications online, though I haven't seen much difference within the processing timing. But what I have realized over the last few months now is that the processing timings are improving, especially for the spousal sponsorship. Seeing an application being approved between 6 to 8 months is no longer a rarity. There are lots and lots of applications that are actually getting approved if everything was in order, if the documentation was not complicated or complex, between 6 to 8 months for spousal sponsorship. Inland or outland, it didn't really matter. But going forward, what is also being indicated is that, or rather what has been mandated, that they will create a pathway whereby the spouses who are outside Canada would have some provision to come to Canada on a temporary residence visa. So that is definitely going to work. Now, there is, and this basically goes, I am not at the liberty of sharing the document that I have because I do not have the permission to do that, but I'm going to read something out for you from there. And this is about TRVs. I'm talking about temporary residence visas, study permits, visit visa applications, etc. Now, this particular section of what I'm going to talk about is basically for it has to do with the refugee claims. So people who claim refugee status in Canada, once they come to Canada, once they've arrived in Canada, that number basically dropped. Okay, so and that dropped by almost 63% in 2019 and 2020. Okay, on the contrary, 2020 had the lowest of refugee claims in Canada since 2016. So that's a big drop. But what I'm trying to get at is that in this particular collection of report, so this is an intelligence collection of analysis that has been made by the Refugee Claims Department from IRCC, who did the intelligence report in trying to understand different aspects which leads people to claim a refugee, or rather wanting to be a refugee in Canada, or claiming Canada's protection. Now, while these are applicable to those claimants, they are also indicative of the push and pull factors. Now, what do I mean by push and pull factors? Now, push and pull factors are the factors that are very important when they're assessing temporary residence applications, because one of the criteria when they're assessing temporary residence applications is to understand, will these people leave Canada at the end of their stay, or the end of their valid period of stay in Canada? Are they going to be claiming refugee status in Canada? I mean, are they going to be, continuing to live in Canada undocumented? Will they become illegal workers in Canada? So that is the biggest criteria or biggest assessment factors for any visa officer who's looking to assess applications for temporary residence. So these push-pull factors are very, very important. I'm going to read out for two countries for you. what I have data with me is for India, Mexico, Iran, Colombia, Haiti, Pakistan, China, Nigeria, Turkey, Sri Lanka. So I have for 10 countries. I'm going to read out for 3 countries because that is where most of the audience here is from. I'm going to read out for you for India, Pakistan, and Nigeria. So for India, it says, despite having the most amount of claims in 2020, overall claims from Indian nationals decreased by 58% in comparison in 2019. Okay, so again, most amount of claims in 2020 were from Indian nationals for the refugee status. But we're talking about the push and pull factors, which are the assessment criteria when it comes to for IRCC to assess your temporary residence application. So study permit, visit visas. All right, so these are it. Push factors. What are the factors which are pushing you out of your country? Okay, high unemployment rate, insurgency, environmental degradation, that is dangerous levels of air pollution, extensive poverty, caste discrimination, corruption, increasing religious tensions, that is attacks on religious minorities, gender-based violence against women and girls, honor killings, discrimination against LGBTQ plus community, and many of these push factors have intensified due to COVID in 2020. Now, these are the push factors that basically IRCC will be looking at, which will probably be the reasons why you would want to come out of your country. In this case, India. The pull factors in Canada, which basically draw you to Canada. Okay. Strong Indian diaspora in Canada, favorable socio-economic opportunities, family reunification, freedom for LGBTQ plus individuals, and respect for women's rights. Again, really very, very important. Now, then there is also the X factor that I'm going to talk about. Political and religious persecution and socio-economic conditions, particularly of minorities, will likely influence migratory trends from India in 2021. India has been at the forefront of vaccine efforts and attempting to manage the COVID-19 virus spread amongst its population, likely pushing previous agendas aside. However, much like in the rest of the world, 2020 will likely reveal the effects of restrictions, spendings, domestic lockdown policies that have negatively impacted much of India's economy through further loss of employment, loss of revenue, and a straining healthcare system. As a result, once travel restrictions begin to lift, more Indian nationals are expected to look for employment opportunities in countries such as Canada and will likely use the resources of sophisticated smuggling networks to do so. That is part of the intelligence gathering report for the push-pull factors. This was India. Next I'm going to read out for you would be Pakistan. Now, for Pakistan, it says Pakistani claimants are likely impacted by Emiratization and Saudization. Now, it's known that a lot of people from Pakistan usually, or rather, obviously, are working in UAE and Saudi. Now, the fact that there is a lot of Emiratization and Saudization happening, a lot of these people are losing jobs, and a lot of Pakistani nationals are also applying for temporary residence out from the Middle Eastern countries, and I mean UAE and Oman and Saudi, and therefore it affects us as well. So again, Pakistani claimants are likely impacted by Emiratization and Saudization, which are workforce policies that aim to replace foreign workers with UAE and Saudi nationals. Many claimants indicate in their basis of claims, mind you, this is for refugee claimants, these push-pull factors, these intelligence gathering is for refugee claimants, but it directly affects the assessments otherwise as well. So going forward, many claimants indicated in the basis of claims, which is done for the refugee application, that they were previously working in UAE or Saudi, but lost their employment. And then religious persecution continues to be the primary basis of claim for Pakistani nationals, particularly persecution of Shia and Ahmadi Muslims. Other significant basis of claim, and again, when I'm saying basis of claim is a document that a refugee claimant files when they are making their application. Other significant bases of claim include domestic and family violence, disputes due to forced marriages and threats of honor killings, fear of various terrorist groups, political persecution, and violence due to sexual orientation. Now, what are the push factors? The push factors that push you out of your country: militancy, violent extremism, deteriorating security situation, corruption, weak infrastructure, varied economic growth, religious fundamentalism, violence against women and children, that is honor killings and sexual abuse, strict anti-blasphemy law, views as a capital crime, discrimination against LGBTQ plus community, growing movement of hate speech, effects of Saudization. Many of these push factors have intensified due to COVID-19 in 2020. Now, the pull factors. Pakistani community in Canada, again, that is a pull factor because you find the fact that it's a more of a comfort zone. Favorable socioeconomic conditions, freedom for LGBTQ plus individuals, little crime or violence, little to no paramilitary or political violence, little perceived corruption, freedom of religion. The X factors. The bombings and other terrorist attacks still pose a substantial threat to civilians, religious institutions, markets, embassies, diplomatic missions, and other places frequented by civilians despite operations by security forces that have decreased the pace and scope of such attacks in the past several years. Government, military, and police officials are the primary target for most militant groups, though Christians, minority groups, and others have also been targeted frequently. Now, this was, again, the analysis gathering by the, what was this? Sorry about that. By the Intelligence Collections and Analysis Hold on, let me repeat this again. Intelligence Collection, Analysis, and Production Division of CBSA. That is the department that has collected all this data. And as I said, these are the push-pull factors and X factors that are related to the refugee claims, but are also considered when they are assessing the TRV applications. Now, I also have for China. Now, we talk about Nigeria. The majority, 89% of Nigeria BTP claimants were in possession of US NIV. I do not know what that is at this point of time. I will have to research that. A large proportion, 50% of these claimants have been in the US for over a year prior to seeking asylum in Canada, likely meaning many of the Nigerian BTP claimants' original intention was not to claim in Canada, but rather settle in US. The predominant basis of claims, again, all these are referring to the refugee claims. Okay, the predominant basis of claims are persecution due to sexual orientation, since it was a criminal offense to be an LGBTQ plus person in Nigeria. A more frequently cited basis of claim in 2020 was death threats and violence from organized criminal groups. Other top bases of claims including family violence and political persecution. Now, the push factors for Nigerians is political uncertainty, corruption, internal displacement, civil conflict, religious tensions, discrimination against LGBTQ plus individuals, ban on homosexuality, poor socioeconomic conditions, violent extremism, recession, economic inequality, separatist aspirations, imposition of Sharia law in some northern states, female genital mutilation, use of children by Daesh of West Africa. Many of these push factors have intensified in during COVID-19. Pull factors, again, favorable socioeconomic opportunities, development, acquisition of high-level skills, little criminal violence, no paramilitary political violence, freedoms for LGBTQ plus individuals. And finally, the X factors. Nigeria faces a variety of internal challenges, such as those relating to humanitarian response in Nigeria's northeast region, where the government's armed conflict with the Islamist extremist armed group Boko Haram, now in its 11th year, has left over 7.5 million people in need of humanitarian assistance. While the global pandemic has amplified several factors influencing outward irregular migration, persecution due to the sexual orientation and family and gender-based violence remains to the top driving factor, as cited in push factors for Nigerian applicants. So that, my friends, is the analysis of the push-pull factors that you should be aware of when you're preparing your applications. Now, what I've read out for you, again, I would like to tell you, is for the refugee claimants, and this was the analysis conducted for refugee claimant, but that continues to be factors for push-pull assessment when your TRV applications are also being considered. That's basically all that I had that I wanted to discuss with you for today's presentation. Let me start with taking questions. So while you're still here, if you are still here, then hit the like button so that the video gets spread to more and more people who might also find this of some use. And by all means, please hit the subscribe button for quality content on Canadian immigration updates. That's what we would like to see. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And let's get to the questions now. First one, applied for visit visa in October 21, new portal from India, from FB groups. It seems November, December results are already out, but nothing for October app. Should I file a new application? No, don't file a new application. In the initial days, the applications are being processed faster. Again, depending on your application, depending on your background, depending on the documents that you have provided, they may be processing it. They may be needing to take more time to process it. It also depends where your application is being processed currently, which visa office is processing it. So because September 7th is when they have launched the new portal, at this point of time, you don't need to submit a new application. Just wait it out. At this point of time, almost 100 days is what they are looking at in processing the applications, though the CIC website shows only 47 days, but 47 days are not being adhered to at this point of time. So just hold on, just wait a bit. You should have a decision on your application soon. Okay. Good morning. We know that PRs get a lot of attention, but citizenship application may be even worse. What do you think this is the case? Why do you think this is the case, and will anything change for 2022? Well, obviously, one of the reasons why citizenship applications continue to be delayed were because all the citizenship applications are processed inside Canada. The test dates are inside Canada. The interviews, if necessary, are inside Canada. And the oath ceremonies were in person inside Canada. Now, when the COVID pandemic happened, all of these, because of the COVID lockdowns and restrictions, all of these had to be delayed. They all had to be rescheduled, which basically creating a big backlog of people who are already processed, thereby further creating a backlog for the new applications. Obviously, with the mandate letter very, very clearly identifying the need for reducing the processing backlogs, and citizenship applicants are again going to add to the vote bank. I see that having a lot of attention going forward. Also, earlier, this was paper applications for a lot of people. They had started digitizing it. They digitized it last year in 2021. And now you can also submit an application online. And that would certainly help process the application faster. I definitely expect the citizenship applications backlogs to reduce faster within the year 2022. And going forward, I hope they maintain their process timings and process them faster. But as I said, because this directly contributes to the vote bank, I definitely see this being processed faster. I want to ask you for a work permit. Do we need to show them funds to the visa officer? Please reply. Now, depending on which work permit, if it's a closed work permit, you may not be required to provide any additional funds to show that you are able to manage yourself. But if you're applying for an open work permit, my recommendation is you should always provide some funds that you will be able to take care of yourself. Also provide a letter which sort of says which basically summarizes your background, talks about your qualification, talks about what jobs are available, what you intend to do, and in the first few weeks, first few months, how do you plan to take care of yourself? If you do not provide funds there, yeah, it could be an issue because it's an open work permit. It means you don't have a job waiting for you. You will have to get to Canada and then start looking for a job, which depending on your background, you may or may not find easily. So how are you going to manage yourself? So always provide proof of funds in such cases. All right. Does proof of fund gets locked at AOR due to currency fluctuations? I'm getting worried if my proof of fund decreases. We've discussed this plenty of times. There is no clear mandate or there is no clear direction as to when the proof of funds gets locked as such. I have seen several cases where the proof of fund, the calculation of currency was done on the day it was being assessed. I've seen a lot of review required. I've seen a lot of additional document requests that have come out of the fact that the proof of fund, the amount decreased because of the falling currency fluctuations. Now, what you can do when you're submitting your application, it's a good idea to always take a screenshot of Bank of Canada exchange rate on that particular day, or from your country's, whatever the Reserve Bank is on that country's website, that bank's website, see whatever is the prevailing exchange rate for Canadian dollar and post that showing that this is your available funds, this is what it equates to, that is the reason why you have so much Canadian dollars as funds. That usually works very well. You could also ask the bank from who you're obtaining the letter to give you in writing what is the equivalent in Canadian dollars. That also works quite well. At this point of time, you don't really need to freak out about it. If at all your funds have drastically dropped, IRCC will ask you for additional documents or updated proof of funds. In either which conditions, it is not a direct refusal if that's what you're thinking. So you don't need to worry or stress about it at this point of time. Would we see FSW draw sooner? Well, I think we spoke about this in detail. What about study permits that was to approve as yet for January intake? Well, I just showed you the backlogs. They have nearly 122,000 study permit applications in backlog. And the expectation is that they should start getting cleared out sooner than later. But whenever you're filing for a study permit application, always expect 3 months deadline. SDS, non-SDS, at least 4.5, 5 months, even 5 months. So try to submit your application as early as possible, sooner than later. Okay, postgraduate work permit extension sent by mail application October 21, but still no response. Why did you send it by mail? Because IRCC very clearly said they were not accepting applications by mail unless you needed those exemptions. So ideally, you should have submitted your postgraduate work permit online. Now that you have submitted it, you are on an implied status. You can continue working. Sometimes it works very well in your favor. And when they will come to the processing, you will get your decision. So you should have submitted the application online. They'd already mentioned that these applications should no longer be submitted through paper or mail. Well, we know the backlogs the way they are, so you will just simply have to wait for this to happen. Okay, what is this? The new backlog update on CIC News. Well, we discussed about that in detail. When will we see PPRs for people who have already passed the remedical? Well, from the trend that we are looking at for the people who have been asked for remedicals, we are seeing between 1 to 3 months as them receiving their passport request after they have completed their remedical. So going by that, yeah, that is what you could be expecting at. Federal skilled worker PNP, country of residence India, September 21, what can be anticipated? 14 months is the anticipated timeline at this point of time. Kanika, Namaste Kubeir ji, kya IRCC फिर बनेगा और कोरोना आ गया और हमारी फाइलें फिर देर हो जाएंगी? Is that what you're saying? क्या IRCC फिर बनेगा? Or are you saying बहाना बनाएगा? Well, बहाना बनाएगा कि नहीं बनाएगा वो तो मैं आपसे नहीं कह सकता. But yes, if at all the situation with the lockdowns is such that it directly impacts their working capacity, their processing capacity, then we might have a situation at hand. But over the last a year or so, the way they have been processing applications, the way they have now set up all their work from home teams, they have provided them adequate technology to sort of be able to work with. I don't expect any significant hold back just because of the situation. If people are working from home, by now they are going to be able to be processing most of the applications. I passed my remedical. It's been an endless wait. I received on AOR on 2020. When can I expect my passport request? Well, as I said, we are looking at 1 to 3 months. Earlier, people who are getting the remedical requests, they were looking at 4 to 5 months. But with more and more applications, backlogs being cleared, going forward, you should be able to expect something soon. My IELTS was expired. My IELTS has expired, age turned 31. I'm very confused about getting married now and adding spouse or waiting for COPR and do landing first and sponsor. Well, if your IELTS expiring has nothing to do with your application, it's in process, your IELTS were valid, then you don't have to worry about your IELTS for sure. As far as getting married is concerned, well, hello, I mean, if it's the same thing, right? Ye laddu khaun ya laddu na khaun. So if you are going to get married, well, of course, get married. Right now, you're waiting for your application to be processed. May as well get married. Let the application for your spouse also get processed together, and then you can live happily ever after. Versus, if you first become permanent, like first of all, right, you don't even know how long it's going to take for your PR application at this point of time. Once you will get your passport request, you will come to Canada, then you will become permanent resident, then you will go back, then you will get married, then you will come back to Canada, then you will sponsor her, and that sponsorship application could take anywhere up to 1 year. What do you think? That would be much more longer. That would put you under more mental stress. Then you will have to be separated from your spouse much longer. Well, do it now. I mean, get married if you have to get married, and add your spouse with your and get the COPRs together, and then, as I said, live happily ever after. Are they going to grandparents parent sponsorship program again? Yes, of course. That program will again, it would be launched again this year. At some point of time, they will announce when that would be. It usually should have been by April, but with the way the things are, it could probably be later this year. You would be able to file your expression of interest. There would be again the lottery. I haven't heard of any changes being made to that at this point of time, and that would probably be the way to. But definitely, it's going to happen this year. Why NDVO is not issuing visa? Well, NDVO is issuing visas. They are just not issuing the visas with the speed that we all want them to issue the visas. Is British Columbia favorable for international students in terms of PR? Well, people go to British Columbia because it's beautiful, because the weather is slightly more tolerant in terms of the cold is a bit more tolerant versus other provinces. But apart from that, most provinces have some or the other program that is favoring the international students. So is British Columbia favorable? I mean, it's such a vague question and such a broad question. I mean, how do I tell you whether it is favorable for all international students or not? If that was the case, then all international students would be going only to British Columbia, right? So what you need to do is you choose the province, look for their immigration programs, and see if it fits your criteria of what you want to do. Does the province fit your criteria of you finding a job that you would be looking at after you complete your education? Does the province fit the criteria of you wanting to live in the province after you become a permanent resident? That should be the questions you should be researching and answering yourself. Is it worth trying for diploma course, risk getting visa rejection, or wait for September intake and go with MBA? Will the rejection hurt my next visa application? Yes. Rejections will always question your next application. I'm not saying it will hurt or not. Now, as far as being in a haste and doing a diploma course or looking for an MBA, you first need to clarify to yourself what is the purpose of your study. If the purpose of your study is a progressive career progression, or if you are looking at a career progression, then choose a degree which is in line with your past studies, which make sense. Don't just apply for the sake of applying, because then you obviously will not be able to do a good application and it could not really work in your favor. So yeah, think about it better. Thank you for the super chat. PR 2020, June, meds done twice, bio done, still waiting. Well, if you completed the medicals yourself, then you shouldn't have. You should have waited for IRCC to ask you for re-medicals. And if IRCC has asked you to do the re-medicals and you're still waiting, well, then it was a good thing that they asked you for re-medicals. Then you could be expecting a decision anytime soon, because based on the trends, as I said earlier, 1 to 3 months is what we are looking at for people who have been asked for re-medicals. But if you did the medicals yourself, then yeah, you'll have to wait till your application comes into the processing queue. Once you have done re-medicals, what could someone expect since AOR is Feb 2020? We have just answered this question. If you have done the medicals yourself, you have done the re-medicals yourself, and your application was not up for processing at this point of time, you will simply have to wait. Okay. And will the process be speed up to reach decision PPR or not? No. Just because you have gone ahead and done a medicals again, that does not, hasten your decision to reach PPR at all. It's better to wait to get your re-medical request from IRCC. Once they will give you the re-medical request, then you will realize it will happen much faster. All right. Canute says, how to determine if the profile is pending finalization? AOR, FSW, Jan 21, and only eligibility pending. Well, eligibility pending is a big pending. Eligibility is the entire application. I mean, that's the crux of the application. If that is pending at this point of time, means a lot has to be done in your application. And if the applicant gets COVID, do they inform IRCC? No, you don't need to inform IRCC if you get COVID. No, not at all. Okay, AOR March 20, still no word from IRCC. I've been outside of Canada, but studies, I don't know what you were asking. I'm sorry. NOC system is changing in 2022. Is it possible now to show your qualification needs to match your work experience? For now, you can work in any NOC regardless of your qualification. Well, because nobody knows how the new NOC system will affect express entry. Yes, the NOC system is going to change. We are going to go to the tier system. And once the tier system comes into play, IRCC will have to make adequate changes within the ERPA and ERPR. Those aspects will also have to come into play in express entry. Until those changes are announced, we can only speculate, and there is no point of speculating because we will only kill ourselves in stress. So suggestion would be to just wait it out. I mean, I know you want to sort of get a head start on things, but sometimes getting a head start on something like this without clarity will only make you go round and round in circles and put you under a lot of stress, and it doesn't really make any difference. All right. Amandeep says only 78,000 files are there in work permit. What's your take on this? This people will come to rescue from Canada from labor shortage. Well, that would be the ideal situation, right? Well, the understanding was that at the time when Canada was trying to put a lot of attention and focus on in-Canada applications, they reassigned people from the several sections, departments, mainly TRVs, so mainly visa officers who were handling temporary residence visas, so visit visa, study permit applications, work permit applications. A lot of them were reassigned to handle the in-Canada applications, and therefore you saw big delays on the other end. Okay, so while study permit applications went back to getting priority, the visit visa applications and the work permit applications unfortunately continued to be on the on the lower end of things. Also, what was thought as that if you were to process the work permit applications, they would then put further burden on in Canada at the time when COVID pandemic was at its peak and when people were struggling to find jobs. And because unemployment was going up, therefore they did not want to put further pressure on that segment, and hence the reason of the delay. But yeah, the expectation is that they should get back to processing those applications as well. IRCC will not process anything this year as well, but they will keep drawing applications because that way they will receive free money. Well, I mean, sometimes you wonder where you get what you say from, right? I mean, if it was free money, then they should be charging $5,000 per application because that would be free money. If you don't know, then you should go and check your statistics and data and know that immigration is a loss-making department. They don't make money, they actually burn money. And the amount of resources, whether it is manpower or other resources that are applied on processing one application, they actually spend more money than the amount of fee that they collect from you. What do you pay? You pay $825 for an application fee and $500 for an RPR, right, for permanent residence fee. You really think your $1,325 is going to make them the money that you think they are making? Use this, it's for free. This is for free. Use it. It will help you understand things better when you come out and make these kind of silly comments on social media platforms. What about LMIA? Canadian government issue an LMIA right now? If yes, then how much time they're taking nowadays, please? LMIA, yes, they are being issued at this point of time because the backlogs that can take anywhere from, I think I've been looking at 3 months to 5 months at this point of time. What about TR to PR French international SIEM? Would they also try to finish those also soon? Well, the streams are already closed. All TR to PR programs are closed. None of them are open. The expectation is that all TR to PR program applications will be processed at completion within this year, 2022. So they expected to complete about 35 to 40,000 applications in 2021. The remaining applications are expected to be completed in 2022. So yes, I expect them to finish that. Is it okay to call IRCC? I got my invitation and AOR 2 years ago. Of course, it's okay to call them. Call them. Yes, absolutely. Use web forms if you have to. Call IRCC. If you know any member of parliament in Canada, then have them check your status on your behalf. Order GCMS notes. Yeah, all these options are absolutely open. They already have 411,000 people in Canada already, and a mere tier to PR pathway would again sort their needs. So-called outlanders will still wait in what seems to be a forever loop. Well, you have a right to your view and opinion, but if that was the case, then they would have already done that by now. And yes, they absolutely can do that. I mean, at the end of the day, it is their prerogative, it is their choice, it is their decision. If that is the way they want to go, then they absolutely can. AOR 2019 received medical request. Do you advise I should do re-medical as soon as possible? See, if you have received a re-medical request, then yes, absolutely go ahead and do your re-medicals. Why would you wait? I got my study visa this year for masters from Alberta. Couldn't travel. I applied again for my masters. Mentioned my study visa duration till next year. Will it affect my chances for admission? I'm not really clear with your query. Your chances for admission, we'll speak to the college and figure out, your chances for admission, because if you had the admission before, then you probably will get it again. Yeah. Applying through intra-company transfer. My wife is already on study permit. What documents would I need to establish home ties? Well, for an intra-company transfer, you don't need to provide much of home ties, because you're coming here for a short duration and your company already has an approval on their employer compliance, and you will obviously need to provide more documents to show that you are qualified to perform the job that you would be doing in Canada. As far as home ties is concerned, you could provide, if you have family back home, you could talk about them. If you have any real estate property back home, you could talk about them. If you have funds, you could show that. But for an ICT work permit, home ties is not really the criteria that they're looking at. They're more concentrating on your eligibility to perform the job for which you're being processed. Agent confirmed having the application and said he can see my application is being processed and by New Delhi to contact them, and he can't share any info. Well, contact them. Use the web form and use a web form specific to New Delhi visa office and check for your status. But your AOR is 23rd of February 2021. I would suggest having a bit of patience, because it may take a bit more time, or order GCMS notes. Is EE-PNP application have edge over FSW applications in terms of processing time? Well, at this point of time, PNP applications were the ones that were being processed. So yeah, if you want to call that having an edge, then yes, at this point of time, mostly PNP EE applications were being processed. The FSW applications were being held back. Bernard says, IRCC still claim limited capacity to process other applications except CEC. Any idea on when they will start updating us on FSW applications? They are processing as they do on CEC. I don't expect them to start updating everybody on what they will do with other applications, just the way they do for CEC. I mean, I would love to see them being more transparent. I would love to see them communicating better. I would love to see them coming out and talking, or rather at least giving clear direction, clear indication, clear insight as to what they are looking to do. Or, I mean, this has already been taken up earlier as well. They have already, whether it was the MPs, whether it was the shadow immigration ministers, everybody has been pushing IRCC into offering more meaningful updates. So when I'm saying meaningful, I mean something which you understand better. Just by saying we are processing your application and the same timeline and the same processing your applications for the last 1 year, that is not meaningful. I mean, what does that even mean? All right. So they are looking at ways of providing more meaningful updates. I mean, as you know, the GCMS system will be phased out over the next few months, years, probably. Okay, they are looking to invest $750 million in the whole digitization processing. So there's a lot of budget that has been allocated. I expect to see much better handing of the applications, much better updates being given out. As I said, meaningful updates. The GCMS system is going to go. So whatever is the new system that they will adopt, I hope that has a much better insight into giving you some information as to where you stand with the whole process at this point of time. But if you're asking whether they will give us information what they do about with CEC as to, but even with CEC applications, the updates that you get, what does it say? It just says, as of so and so date, we are processing applications of so and so date. I mean, what does that even mean? And there are so many applications who are before that date and they are waiting for process. Nothing happened. So even that is not a meaningful update. That I do not know why they even do that, but because it doesn't really give you any proper information as such. So for me, I would like to see something much more concrete, something much more hard hitting to understand, like, okay, this is where my application is. This is what has been happening. This is not what is something which is of concern. This is where they are stuck at. This is what I can expect in how many days my application will be processed. I would like to see that kind of a meaningful update for every single application. Said says, I have sent my resume to so many employers in Canada for job offer, but they asked me if I'm in Canada, why they asked me for being in Canada, even Canada needs employees. Well, the fact is that if you're not in Canada, then for them to bring you to Canada is going to be a very lengthy and a time-taking process, which they don't want to spend time or money or effort on. I mean, why should they bring you in? I mean, unless you're offering exceptional skill set, why would a Canadian employer want to spend that much more time, effort, money into bringing somebody who they could probably find somebody in Canada? So that is a question you need to ask. I'm not saying people from outside Canada don't find jobs. It is that much more difficult to find a job because, again, at the end of the day, it's a country of 38 million people. It's not a very large country in terms of population. With that limited population, there will always be people inside Canada who they can hire. So that's the reason they ask you a question. Are you inside Canada? Means, are you authorized to work? So if they offer you a job, will you be able to start within the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 month, 1.5 months, versus offering you a job, and by that all you're trying to do is look for a way to come to Canada, and for you it is you are trying to use them to come to Canada. All they want is an employee. Okay, you may not necessarily stick around with them, and you, by getting the job offer, may take what, I don't know, 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 year, 2 years to get processed and come to Canada. So it doesn't add up. That the balance is not there. The whole equation doesn't balance out, and therefore more and more employers would refuse to sort of take any interest in an applicant who is not in Canada. Yes, there would always be employers who would be seeking people from outside Canada, but those will be when they really cannot find those skill sets, or they're finding difficult time finding those skill sets, or they're finding people with those skill sets to have a very high retention rate. Those will be the situations where you will find that the employers are willing to even wait for such people. Okay, same questions coming up now. We just take a few more and then off we go. Tamidayo says, thank you for the inspiring videos. Thank you. What's the status of the backlog now? What's the hope for Outland Federal Skilled Worker? I would suggest that you watch the video from a bit earlier, because we covered that in a lot of details. Amit, thank you for super chat. No data available in table. Message getting displayed in my express entry application since more than 2 weeks. Even raised a web form. Please guide. To be very honest, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Probably will have to look at this in more details. But if it is on your account, on your express entry profile account, then just raise a technical web form, and only IRCC can basically clear that out. It could also be a technical glitch. Just wait for some time and it will phase out. Otherwise, as I just said, raise a technical web form and only IRCC will be able to guide you in this situation. Is postdoctoral research included in work experience? Does learning French provide more job opportunities in Canada? The answer to both the question is yes. If your postdoctoral research work is outside Canada, was paid under the valid NOC as a research assistant, then yes, you can claim it as eligible work experience. Learning French definitely gives you much more options in terms of employment. Being a bilingual obviously is a lot of benefit. So finding a job is always easier, and you obviously get paid as well better because the competition is less. The number of bilingual speakers are much less versus people who speak only English. So yes, learning French would be a definite advantage. BCPNP nominated a working in husband's firm where they paid salary in bank, and also provident fund is also paid for 36 months. Our office address is our house address. Will I get some issues? Well, it is quite possible that there might be some issues depending on the kind of documentation you provide and how you provide them and what explanation you give. It all depends on what kind of a background check they do and what they discover. If it is suspect and you haven't been able to provide them with credible evidence to prove your work experience, then yes, it could be an issue. Shaikh Riaz, thank you for the super chat, but unfortunately I don't see any question, and I'm seeing a lot of repeat for several questions. So I'm assuming that my feed is just coming back to the same questions again. Will NOC code will also help in spouse open work permit? No, you need to be working under NOC code 0 A or B, have at least 3 pay stubs, and then you will be able to apply for your spouse's open work permit application. Akash Patel said, do you think CEC and TFW would have trouble to get invitation like old regime means? Would invitation based on specific knock codes or tier codes? Well, that is something that has been discussed several times. Moving forward, there is a talk. Again, it has not been disclosed. Nothing there has clarity on it. But there is a lot of talk that IRCC may resort to identifying profiles based on certain occupation code. But that would basically mean going back to the pre-express entry times, where there was a list of in-demand occupations and only those people would be eligible to apply. Would they move into something what they were doing earlier? It is a possibility. At this point of time, they may have a surplus of certain skill types, and those people, once they come to Canada, will not be able to find a job. Then they get depressed, they get demotivated, and so and in the whole thing, then they are losing out on people who basically they need within the economy, within the society, within the communities, and they're not able to find those people. So would IRCC go the way of identifying profiles based only on knock codes? It is a possibility. It was indicated in the last year's budget as well, whereby they indicated that the immigration minister should be given more power, more responsibility, more authority in choosing profiles based on their occupation. So I do not know when that will come into play. I don't think it is coming into force anytime soon. Definitely not in 2022 for sure, because it will need to be put into play. It will need to sort of change certain laws. For the changing of the laws, it has to come into the parliament. It has to be ratified. So there's a lot of processing to be done before it can happen. And if that happens, obviously you all will know much in advance, and you'll be able to take steps accordingly. Varun Sharma, thank you for super chat. Unfortunately, there's no question. Shujat, thank you. No question. I'm sorry there. Okay, Sheikh Riaz, can you help me understand GSS work permit applications? I submitted completed application in the month of July, but no update at all. Well, there have been plenty of applications that were delayed. Work permit applications have been backlogged. I mean, nearly 78,000 applications have been backlogged. A lot depends on your processing office. Now, even as far as GSS, sometimes you may think it's a GSS application, but was your employer designated under the GSS? That is number one. Is your knock code designated under the GSS? Number two. Is the kind of salary you're being paid valid under the GSS? So there are a few factors that are become very prevalent and important in the GSS. So you need to check if your application was indeed considered under GSS. And if yes, raise a web form or ask your employer to sort of seek some assistance from an MP and have them sort of look at why your application is still being pending. Last few questions and then off we go. Any ghost update regarding medical extension? Is it pointing towards finalization of applications? Well, I know a lot of people confuse the fact that ghost update means the application is going to be finalized. Ghost updates basically is IRCC taking some step on your application, doing some working on your application, but the system does not have any adequate update to show you, and therefore it shows up as a ghost update. That's all that it means. It does not mean that they're going to press the PPR button next soon. Yes, as has been seen that if there are a lot of ghost updates, it's somehow, so basically those are towards the final stages of the applications being processed. And that has led people to believe that ghost update would basically means PPR is around the corner. It does not necessarily mean that. Ghost update basically just means that IRCC has just conducted some steps on your application, but there is no corresponding or corroborating update status on the system to show you, and that's what shows up as ghost update. Sriram, thank you for the super chat. No question there. All right, that's just about it. Is it unrealistically optimistic to expect PPR in March 2022 for Ontario, April 2021? Well, if you're going to be, focusing on a specific month and expecting it, then I can't really tell you whether that would happen or not. But yes, expectation of PNP express entry applications 14 months into processing time is a fair estimate, again going by the past processing times the way they have happened. RPRF means application is finalized. No, not at all. RPRF does not mean application is finalized. It is just another step that they need to complete in the processing, and that's what they ask you for it. It definitely does not indicate the application being finalized. You could be asked for RPRF at the R10 stage. You could be asked for RPRF just before they start eligibility. You could be asked for RPRF after they've completed the eligibility. You could be asked for RPRF at any stage. It does not necessarily indicate an automatic application being finalized. Well, that's basically all for me for today. Thank you very much for joining in. Please do subscribe to the channel. Hit on the button here, subscribe it. Click on the notification icon, and hopefully you will get notifications from our side, the bell icon, the next time we update something. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe or follow us on Instagram or on TikTok. We're there on both of them. We do a lot of lives on those as well. We post a lot of stories, post a lot of updates as and when they happen. And if you wish to book an appointment, then that is the link. Please feel free. We can discuss more and understand better what your application is about, and probably give you more and better insight. That's basically all from me for today. Thank you very much for joining in. I shall see you next time. Until then, stay safe, take care.